Windsor is saying so long to a risque landmark. Studio 4 is coming down. The notorious strip club building has been sold and will be redeveloped. A live look there. You can see some of that sunset. Just a beautiful day today, but it was chilly. Colette Kennedy will have your full forecast later in the program. Good evening. I'm Katerina Georgieva. Chris is away. Sarnia residents are feeling anxious after a series of homicides in their city. 4 people have been killed this month alone. It's a situation that has the mayor offering more support for police. The CBC's Dan Takema has more.
Well, it's been a dreadful month.
Police in Sarnia are investigating 4 deaths as homicides. Each happened in the past month. That's more than the 3 homicides that were recorded over all of last year. It's a grim start to 2021. The most recent death happened on Devine Street yesterday afternoon, and residents here say they're feeling on edge.
Nervous, and last night was hard. Sleeping.
The city's mayor says he understands why people are upset and has pledged more support for police if they need it.
I would say the public here is more than anxious. They're very concerned about their personal safety and their families. It's a legitimate concern to have.
A large police command trailer was parked outside of the home on Devine Street today. Forensic officers could be seen going in and out throughout the afternoon. Neighbors described the man who lived there as someone who was quiet and kind, someone who would shovel out driveways for others when it snowed. Now, police have already arrested suspects in the first 2 homicides and say they don't believe that they're connected. They're continuing to probe the possibility of links between the 2 most recent deaths, which are both considered suspicious, happened less than a week apart and at homes within 2 kilometers of each other. The service says 4 homicides in 1 month would be unusual for any city, but they're up to the task and have brought in backup from within their own service.
Our officers are working around the clock. We've drawn in resources from our own department, so officers that have worked in, say, criminal investigations in the past have been brought into the unit again to assist in this investigation.
Police are asking residents to lock their windows and doors and to make sure exterior lights are left on at night. Dan Takema, CBC News, Sarnia.
Sarnia police are also asking businesses and residents with video surveillance to help. Anyone in the boundaries of Exmouth Street to the north, Christina Street to the west, LaSalle Line to the south, and Highway 40 to the east. Police are interested in video captured on January 22nd from 5 p.m. to January 23rd at 8 a.m. and January 25th from 7 p.m. to January 26th at 7 a.m. Police would like you to send any video footage to them. They ask that you put it on a memory stick, place it in an envelope, and drop it off at the headquarters. They also ask residents to look around their properties for any kind of identification for Sue Ellen Lumsden. If you find anything of the sort, do not touch it. Call police immediately. And here in Windsor, police have arrested a security guard at a long-term care home with sexual assault. Here's what we know. Police responded to the facility on January 11th to investigate. Officers learned the man had allegedly sexually assaulted 2 female staff members on separate occasions. The 20-year-old was subsequently charged with 3 counts of sexual assault. Police say it's possible there were more victims involved since all of the incidents were committed during his employment at the home. Major Crime is investigating, and police are asking anyone with information to reach out. The number of people who have died because of COVID-19 in Windsor, Essex has passed the 300 mark. 8 more deaths were reported today, all of them seniors. The health unit says it's concerning and yet expected, even with the drop in case counts.
Death is a lagging indicator, so whatever we are seeing is a result of the cases that we have seen at least 2 to 3 weeks before. So it's unfortunate that we still have these deaths in the community, but with our most vulnerable residents of long-term care home and retirement home protected, we'll hope to see that that number will go down.
Case counts are continuing to drop. There were 55 new cases in Windsor, Essex today. The number of active cases has dropped below 1,000 as well to 933. and the number of people hospitalized has dropped below 100 to 92. After hanging up her scrubs 2 years ago, a retired Windsor nurse wants to go back to the front lines to help in the fight against COVID. But she says there's one big roadblock in her way. The CBC's Tamina Aziz has her story.
With this pandemic, it's people want to help out, and I think that it would free up licensed nurses, RNs and RPNs, to do other things.
For months, Ellsworth has been wanting to help healthcare workers fight COVID-19. Despite being retired, she wants to offer her assistance for free, but says she can't afford to pay to reinstate her license. She says there are many steps she has to follow, which can add up. According to the College of Nurses of Ontario, the total cost of an active license is more than $530. That's too much for Ellsworth. She wants that fee waived.
Especially when there's some of us that have worked in nursing for years and they're not going to give us a break.
The college says retired nurses can return as unregulated care providers, which has no cost attached to it. But if they want to continue to practice as a nurse and have practiced within the last 3 years, they can choose to reinstate their license. Ellsworth says this brings her hope, and she's looking into it immediately. While she's eager to help, one hospital says it's not needed. As for area hospitals, Erie Shores Healthcare says it's not experiencing a shortage of nurses, but would consider waiving fees on a case-by-case basis. Hotel du Grès says it would cover the cost to reinstate a nurse license, but says it hasn't had any retired nurses express interest in joining. CBC News reached out to the province to see if they may be waiving fees in the future, but did not hear back yet. Tamina Aziz, CBC News, Windsor.
Premier Ford was in the GTA touring a recreation center that will eventually be able to provide COVID-19 vaccine shots to 1,000 people a day.
They put this together, I understand, in less than a day or 2 days, and everyone pitched in, so we're very, very grateful. This is how we're going to get through this. All we need more vaccines.
The vaccine shortage is because of production slowdowns by Pfizer. Joining the Premier today was retired General Rick Hillier, the man tasked with the vaccine rollout in Ontario. He says next week the province is expecting about 26,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. That's an 80% drop from what was originally planned. Hillier says the focus right now is on vaccinating residents of long-term care and high-risk retirement homes. During today's tour, Hillier also mentioned how he'd welcome a homemade vaccine supply. Well, that's exactly what's happening at an office in the Toronto area where human trials are underway for a Canada-made vaccine. Chris Glover has more.
At an unassuming plaza here in Etobicoke, life-saving research is underway. Today, we can give you a first-hand look at the human trials that are currently underway for a COVID vaccine made here in Toronto and why some people are delaying their own protection for all of our sake.
So how have you been feeling? Great.
53-year-old fitness and first aid instructor Wendy Oldfield volunteered to be in a human trial for a Toronto-designed COVID vaccine back in the spring.
And then about a month ago, I got a call and they said, "Hey, Wendy, are you still interested?" I'm like, heck yeah.
The next day, she was at this Etobicoke clinic getting blood work. Finally, a week ago, it was her turn.
Woke up that day, ready to go. Stick me.
Taking this photo right after receiving her dose.
I just wanted to kind of capture this moment in history because for me, it's major. It's major stuff. It's major stuff for Canada.
Major stuff because Toronto-based Providence Therapeutics is the first Canadian COVID vaccine to start human trials and have 100% of production in Canada.
I've been in clinical research for over 30 years, and this is probably the most important project that I've been involved with, and I'm just so pumped up to be able to be part of this.
Providence's chief medical officer says this Made in Canada solution is crucial, especially as new variants threaten to propel the infection for years.
We've been relying on foreign suppliers to supply our vaccine, and they've been unreliable, to say the least.
By September, the Prime Minister says all Canadians who want a vaccine will get one. So Oldfield shelved her own guaranteed protection by signing up for the 13-month study in the name of science. 45 participants in the trial are getting the real vaccine and 15 others a placebo, and no one knows which group they're in.
I'm knocking wood hoping that I didn't get the placebo, but you know what? If it helps to get other people vaccinated in the future, then I'm game. I'm all for it.
Still, she's been hoping for an immune response like a low-grade fever or achy joints.
I actually woke up during the night several times after the vaccine, took my temperature, kind of felt if I was feeling not so well, and I felt great the whole time. Darn it.
All of that is perfectly normal, and now she's in a high-stakes waiting game.
I know a couple of people that have actually had it. Luckily, they've survived, but as we all know, that there's hundreds and thousands of people in Canada and around the world that are dying from this virus. So we need to get on it and get together and get this vaccine going.
Her way of fighting on the front lines against the pandemic. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The province is ramping up inspections on farms as migrant workers have already begun to arrive for this year's growing season. The focus of the inspections will be on worker safety.
Hundreds of inspectors, all trained in the necessary biosecurity protocols, are visiting farms and greenhouses to make sure employers are taking every precaution. Last year, we knew farmers needed extra guidance on how to protect workers, so our visits focused on education. This year, we're enforcing and issuing orders, no excuses.
They say inspections will focus on the workplace, not the workers' living quarters. McNaughton says that is a federal responsibility together with local public health units. The inspectors will be looking at how COVID-19 protocols like sanitization, physical distancing, PPE use, and screening are being implemented on farms. They will also check that they have a proper safety plan in place. McNaughton says inspectors will speak directly with workers about their concerns and will be assisted with translators from the Mexican consulate. He says inspections are ongoing. The Migrant Worker Alliance for Change responded to the announcement with a statement saying, Ontario announces more inspections for migrant farm workers, but has changed none of the rules that resulted in thousands being infected and Juan, Bonifacio, and Rogelio's deaths. Ontario must enforce physical distancing at work and homes and fully include migrant workers under all labor laws. But the buck stops with Prime Minister Trudeau, who must grant permanent status to all now so that migrants actually have the power to protect themselves and assert their rights. A local restaurant is being sued for defamation by a man who says he was denied service for not wearing a mask when picking up an order, despite the fact he said he has a medical exemption.
Understandably, they're upset, they're disappointed. They're doing their very best to run their business and provide takeout service in the midst of this pandemic, and to do it safely and to protect their staff and their patrons. And they would have liked to see this case move on and everyone to move on from this.
Antoine Dai, a local lawyer, initially claimed he was discriminated against and threatened to take Thai Palace to a human rights tribunal if they did not pay him $20,000. That's a story we covered when it happened last October. Now, Dai has filed a lawsuit against the restaurant and its owner, Renew Anderson. He says his law office received an avalanche of hate mail and hate calls, including threats of bodily harm, following alleged defamatory statements Anderson made in the media, which were widely publicized. He is seeking damages of $50,000 for libel and slander. The lawyer representing the restaurant says he will be vigorously defending his clients. The allegations have not been proven in court. Studio 4 is destined for demolition. The Windsor Strip Club has been sold. For decades, the strip club has been a familiar sight for drivers entering Canada or heading to the United States across the Ambassador Bridge.
It's notorious, to own a strip joint, like everybody's talking to you about it and so on, and especially in the beginning when we opened it, we were in the first week, we're full. But I haven't it hasn't really sunk in yet. I think if they demolish it or something, I want to be there.
The landmark Studio 4 was part of Windsor's exotic dancer heyday in the 80s. A local historian says it was one of about a dozen in operation and gave the city the nickname Tijuana North by American visitors. In Canada, we allowed full nude dancing and drinking below the American legal age, something they couldn't get at home. The building has since fallen into disrepair. The new owner says the building needs more than just renovations.
Saying that it was rough is putting it lightly. The condition of the building was certainly not up to par. It looked like that there wasn't much investment made there for many years now, and it's best suited for it to be removed as opposed to retrofitted or renovated.
The company has also purchased 2 nearby shopping centers. This summer, they plan to start construction. They haven't said what they plan to build next, but it definitely won't be another strip club. Documentaries about local history don't always make it into the film festival circuit, but one about being Black in Chatham-Kent has done just that. It's called The North Star: Finding Black Mecca. This week, it's part of the Denton Black Film Fest in Texas, a virtual event. We spoke with one of the women who shares her story in the documentary.
When it comes to this particular area, Chatham wouldn't be Chatham without Black people.
Education was so powerful. Denied one in the South, you're coming to Canada, you've got freedom, you embrace it.
I think because we are to me, we are a unique community. And also because there's not too many Underground Railroad settlements that are still existing as that settlement. And we are very fortunate to have quite a few above Underground Railroad resources as well.
You wouldn't think that there would be that, discrimination. But there was quite a bit because of their color of their skin. They were denied.
The settlement itself was founded in 1849 by a white Presbyterian minister. And when the people in the outlying area heard what was happening in the area, they were not quite pleased about it. They had a big fear that their land values were going to depreciate, and eventually they might even be taking over political offices. So what would this community look like then?
Take the journey. Become who you're supposed to be.
It's just quite impressive. The fact that people in Texas are eager to learn more about the Black history that is here in Canada, because I think people usually view the Underground Railroad when you get to the border, it just stops. So now there's that, when they do arrive, what is the end of the story? Because we are such a significant role in that, the Underground Railroad story.
A live look at our city there. Now, in the days ahead, we've got some clouds, some sun, and even some more snow over the weekend. Colette Kennedy will join us right after the break with our full weather forecast. But first, a little bit of nostalgia as a classic children's show from the 80s is set to return. Fraggle Rock is getting a reboot, and production has already begun in Calgary. The puppet series, produced by the Jim Henson Company, was originally filmed in Toronto. A Jim Henson spokesperson says Calgary was the obvious choice for the reboot because of Alberta's tax breaks for production. A limited series of short episodes called Fraggle Rock, Rock On were released on Apple TV Plus last year, but the Jim Henson Company says with the pandemic, they wanted to produce an entire series of full-length episodes. The new series will also stream on Apple TV. So fans, dance your cares away and let the music play. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy joins us now for weather. Colette, I could not get enough of the sun today. It was just so beautiful.
Yeah, just gorgeous. Hour after hour of sunshine. Yeah, really fantastic conditions. And yes, okay, a little cool, a high of about -3, but much of the day the wind chill made it feel like about -10. But you know, when you got the sun, I think a lot of times we don't mind it as much, right? I thought we'd take a tour around the province and look at some of the temperatures of that colder air that is going to be sinking down into southern Ontario. At the moment, Kenora -21, -22 in Sandy Lake. I said around the province, but actually I couldn't help myself. When I see all these pinks and purples, I went into Manitoba. I was just checking the current temperature in Thompson, -26. Okay, it's not going to get that cold for us. We're at -5 at the moment, but it is going to be the coldest air we've had so far. 2021 for this season, our coolest temperature was -9.2, and tonight I've got us going down to -10, okay? So there's that -5. Then we factor in those winds, and it feels like -10, and that's just going to be sinking through the overnight hours due to these north to northwesterly winds. Not only that, because the lakes aren't frozen, we've had a mild winter, not seeing as much ice. There's lots of moisture to work with here for some of this lake effect, but it's going to kind of hover over the same areas. It moves a little bit east, and then it's going to rotate back. But basically between Sarnia and London, down towards Chatham-Kent, you could pick up some up here towards St. Thomas, but just closer to the lakeshore, where there we will see significant amounts of snow. In fact, there could be a few pockets that may pick up in this little target area over 20 centimeters locally. So it is highly localized. We know how that is, but flurries at times making their way into Chatham-Kent, where it's -11 tonight, -10, as I mentioned, for Windsor, feeling like almost -20, and we only warm up to -4 tomorrow, so we even keep a wind chill in the afternoon of -10. And if you look ahead, a couple of cold nights after tonight still coming our way, then we rebound as the system moves closer to us, towards the end of the weekend and beginning of next week.
I felt chilly just listening to that, but I appreciate you breaking it down. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, when we come back, we'll bring you an update on the plans for the Tokyo Olympics. Stay with us.
music.
Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day, marking 76 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. In 1945, the remaining prisoners in Auschwitz were freed by Soviet forces. The infamous Nazi death camp is where more than 1 million Jewish people were gassed to death or died from starvation and disease. In all, 6 million Jewish people were killed during the Holocaust. The International Olympic Committee says it remains fully committed to holding the Games as scheduled this summer in Tokyo. Despite obvious concerns around COVID-19, the IOC also says the Games can be held safely. One expert, though, says that's not the real issue.
The question is, do we want to put all of that energy, all of those resources towards what ultimately is a sporting event? At a time where there's vaccine scarcity, we've talked about that today. In many parts of the world, there's testing scarcity. Do you want to do that for the athletes, but also for the people working at that venue? It is a lot of energy and resource to put towards it. So that's a broader discussion for people to have.
The IOC president says the organization is working day and night to keep the Games on schedule and that all stakeholders are on board. The Olympics are scheduled to start on July 23rd, a postponement of 1 year. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rick Mercer Report is up next. Have a great night.